So the purpose of this morning is to go through the assignment that I believe is due next Sunday. You're working on the literature review library search. It's one of the documents I've shared. It's also found, I believe, in the week 2 resources in your Moodle course. And really this webinar is entirely to go over that document. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with what we're doing. I'm here on the PowerPoint, basically saying what we're really doing. Here's basically our agenda. Our agenda is the questions 2 through 7. The first thing we're going to do is talk about finding books and ebooks, which is the questions 2 and 6 on the sheet. Number 2 is to find books in another library, and that's question 3. Next, we will find articles in academic journals. I'll talk about how to use limiters, and then we'll talk about using ProQuest, using the ATLA religion database, which is question 5. Then we'll talk about outside Life Pacific, which is using Google Scholar and using interlibrary loan for books or for articles. And then we'll finish up with the question and answer. So in all of this, the idea is, how to search for these things and how to narrow them down. You don't want too long of a list for your assignment itself. I think in most cases he asks for 3 items. So as we do this, we're going to open up our different catalogs, our different databases, and we will then have each tab will have the answers for each question. So in the end, you should have 5 or 6 tabs open, each one representing one of the questions. So at the end of the webinar, you can then just tick the items off as you write them down on your assignment. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started then. Finding books. So let's see here. Let me turn my page in my own little material. All right, so we're going to find books. The first thing we're going to do is open up one of our web browsers, and I am going to direct us to lifepacific.edu. Once you're here, we're going to get to the library catalog. So I'm going to open up lifepacific.edu, click on menu, and then over in the right-hand column, it says library. Go ahead and follow along and click on library. And this takes me to our library web page. If you haven't bookmarked this, hopefully you do soon. And because you'll be using it as you continue on in your degree program here. Right now, here is this in the center section. It says LPC catalog on discovery, and underneath that it says advanced search. I'm going to go ahead and click advanced search, and that's going to take me to the catalog. This is very similar to a Google search in the fact that we just enter a term here in the top box and hit search. So in many ways, that's going to work. Before we continue on, though, I want to point out in the upper right-hand corner, it says sign in, and I'm going to have you do that now. If you haven't signed in, do so. I'm going to ask a quick question. If I need to walk people through the sign-in process, let me know. Basically, I click on the sign in. Takes me to a sign-in page. I enter in my username, which is typically your student ID number, and a password. If you haven't created the password yet, we'll wait a couple minutes to help you do that. If we could give a heads up to Gary if anybody needs to do that. Otherwise, if you've signed in before, go ahead and just sign in. And when you do, it should say your name up in the upper right-hand corner. And the reason you need to sign in is that as you access the other databases, that sign-in feature will allow it to cover all of the databases as we go about doing that. Gary, did everybody sign in, or can you? Does anybody need to sign in or learn how to sign in? If you could, just chat with Gary and say, how do I sign in? We're all good?
We have one.
Okay. Is somebody trying to? All right. And Gary's going to try and walk somebody through that process really fast. Um, what I'm going to be doing through this webinar is I'm going to be using my own my own research term, and it's my generic terminology. And the reason I'm doing this is I just want to be as an example. For you, you should be using your topic. As we go through these different catalogs, you should be using the topic that's going to be used for the entire class. I believe one of your assignments was to pick that topic and have it narrowed down by this point. So you're going to be using your topic, I'm going to be using mine, and I'll try to walk through some of this process so that we kind of learn as we go. All right, so in this case, I'm coming here to this first box where it says search term, and I am going to enter, I'm just going to use hospital chaplaincy. Helps if I spell things correctly. You on your keyboard, you enter your search term of whatever topic it is you're working on, and I'm just going to hit hospital chaplaincy, and I'm going to go ahead and hit search. Now this is searching not only our catalog, it's searching catalogs of worldwide different libraries, and it's also searching some of our databases, but we really don't want to do the database search with this catalog. All right, so I'm looking up here along the top. It tells me a number of results. You know, for my example, I've got over 2,000. That's not a lot. It's not too little. It's a good number, but I actually want to narrow that down to the most appropriate. So from this results list, our goal is to find the most appropriate book. So I'm going to look through this list: hospital chaplaincy, crisis spiritual care in the hospital setting. So we've got a couple that are, for my example, right on topic of what I'm looking for. But I may not have the best. What I did was a keyword search, which searches author, title, some of the subjects. It searches, you know, book description and so forth. So I really want to find the tags that are used by librarians, and those are called subject headings. When we use subject headings, the most precise way of searching, we end up narrowing it down to the most precise list. So I'm looking at this, and I'm going to click on probably my second title because it seems to be on task, and I want to find those subject headings. So our goal on this materials page then, that's what this is called when I've clicked on a title, is to click on the descriptions, and this opens up, the description tells me things about the book itself, chapter titles in some cases. But as I scroll down, I get to this one spot where it says subjects. So my keyword for my thing was hospital chaplaincy. But very top of my list, actually, it says the real subject heading is chaplain's hospital. Very similar, but they're actually using a different terminology. Now, I can copy and paste this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my advanced search page. I'm going to paste it in there. And now in my drop-down box where it says search index, I'm no longer going to search for a keyword. I now want to change this to subject heading. So I click on this drop-down box and drop down to subject. Now that I'm ready with the subject in there, the official subject, I'm going to go ahead and click search. And it actually got rid of several ideas. Now, it's not that those weren't useful, but what this list now is basically lists of words, books that are described where at least 40% of the content is chaplains in a hospital. Okay, so my search now has gotten rid of Army chaplains and some of those other chaplaincy ideas, and it's just searching for hospital chaplains. Okay. So now that I have my subject, I've got these. These are the most precise, most accurate, most relevant to my search. Now, if I wanted to add to this, go back to advanced search, I can actually add keywords to narrow it even further. So I go back to my search box, hospital chaplains, change it to subject. And if I wanted to, I can use one of these other boxes to add a keyword. So hospital chaplains, and let's say we wanted to deal with how do hospital chaplains deal with grief? So then I might add the word grief to my subject as a keyword. So I have a major subject and a minor search, and it's looking for a keyword, and that should bring me on my list quite a bit, down to just 31 items. So our process for finding books was to search first for keyword. From that list, our goal was to find the most relevant item, then to open that up, look at the descriptions to find the most precise subject heading, and then search using that subject heading. If my list was too long, to add the keyword. In this case, I added the keyword grief to mine. You may not have to add a keyword. It just depends on what you're trying to do there. All right, so I am looking at this as far as question 2 is concerned. That is, I'm looking for books at Life Pacific. In my case, I look at the top and it says I have 1,198 books in libraries worldwide. So how do I narrow it down to specifically Life Pacific? Now I'm going to look at the left-hand column here. So I've got this results list. Look on the left-hand side, and these are what are called limiters. The very top one is for library. In this case, I'm going to limit it to just at Life Pacific College. So rather than it looking at libraries worldwide, just underneath that, it says Life Pacific College. I click on that, and my results dropped from 1,100 to just 31. So those are 31 books that are available through LPC. I don't know what's going on with your list, but it probably dropped down significantly. And what's beautiful about this is this tab now has your answers to both questions 2 and 6. Okay, so we're going to leave this tab up. This is the tab you're going to use to answer questions 2 and 6 on your assignment. Now, how do you know which ones are ebooks and which ones are physical books? Well, if it's an ebook, underneath the title, there's a blue box that says View eBook. That will tell you it's an ebook. And in my case, I'm going to scroll down here, and I've got the top 3 are ebooks, and then after that it has physical books where it gives a call number. All right, so hopefully everybody's followed along. I'm going to stop for a second and turn around and look at Gary. So if you have problems at this point, go ahead and chat with Gary and let him know that something didn't work, and I'd be willing to go over something. All right, one person's question, one person's typing. Nope. All right, so we're all good then. Okay, never mind. All righty, wonderful. As I said, if you've got questions, feel free to ask Gary on the side there. If he needs to stop me, he will, and that would be awesome. All right, so this, as I said, this tab answers questions 2 and 6. To figure out ebooks, you can, as I said, you'll see the blue box that says View ebook, and the limiters on the side, below where I had the library, I can go down about another couple inches and it says Format. And I can actually select book, ebook, theses, dissertations. If I click Show More, it might even show me DVDs or CDs that have to do with the same topic. So I can actually limit it that way. So both ways will work on that. All right, so I'm going to move now from questions 2 and 6 to our next question, which is about using another library or visiting another library. So here I am on this same page, and I'm going to go back up here to libraries, and I'm going to change it to libraries worldwide. So I had it limited for questions 2 and 6 to just Life Pacific. I click libraries worldwide, and it gives me the longer list. Okay, so what I want to do then is find a book that Life doesn't have. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of my page, click on page 5 or something like that, and see what I've got. I've got books that are available here. I've got, let's see here. All right, so I'm looking at number 42 on my list, and it happens to be a book that is not owned by Life Pacific. So I'm going to go ahead and click on its title. And when I look at the title, or when I have this materials page, I can scroll down. If I wanted to open up descriptions, I could. I can scroll further down, and normally under availability, if it is available through Life Pacific, it would have the call number, or it would say view ebook. All righty. All right, so Gary's just gave me a little message here that people are struggling to follow the search. My question would be then, was it the search term? Am I going too fast? Or was it the getting to the next screen, that sort of thing?
I think you almost have to have split screens, so follow and have the search box.
Okay. All right. So Gary's recommending that for many of you, you might want to split your screen and have two tabs open, or two browsers open. In one sense that you can watch what I'm doing, so kind of follow along, and then on the other tab you might want to commit the search yourself, so that you have, or on the other side of the screen, so that you can follow along and do your own work as well. So let me see if I can demonstrate that. So I'm going to change the size of my search box, push that over to one side, and I'm going to go ahead and grab another tab and put that on the other side. So now I have two tabs open, and I will quickly kind of get to a page. So if you notice right now, my screen looks messy because I've opened up two browsers, or two versions of the browser. And on the right-hand side, that's the one where I'm walking you through. And on the left-hand side would be you kind of doing your own research. Now, I don't want to fill up your entire screen with 3 things of this, but that's the idea. So hopefully at this point you're thinking in terms of, I'll put Steve and the Skype on one side, and on the other side I will have my own browser open and following along doing my own work. If you can, give Gary a little thumbs up to let him know that that makes sense, and hopefully that'll work. I don't know how to do the thumb emoji thing, but if I did, I would tell you.
A little smiley face at the bottom.
Or a little smiley face. All right, so hopefully this makes sense to do a kind of a 2-tab approach. All right, so coming back here to question number 3, which was searching for books outside of Life Pacific. So I found a particular book that is not owned by Life Pacific. I'm on the materials page of it. That is, I clicked the title. And as I scroll down, I come to a blue line that says availability. And underneath that, there is nothing written. Typically, if LPC owned it, it would have the call number, or it would say view online or view the ebook. In this case, it does not say that. So what I want to do then is to help you as you consider this. Underneath this Libraries Worldwide, there's a spot where it says Search Location. Now under Search Location, you can enter in your zip code. So if I were to enter in, I'm just going to pick 55500. Hopefully that's somewhere in the middle of the country, or it exists. And I'm going to hit Search. And this is now going to tell me what library closest has this book. And in this case, nothing in the United States. I picked a wrong book. Let me quickly change that. There we go. So I'm going to click my 55500, and it says there are other libraries available that have the book. It used to tell me how many miles away it was, but right now it just tells me the libraries that are closest. Now, there might be a long list of libraries that own the book. The question is, do you have a chance to borrow from those libraries? Now, we do have agreements with some libraries, but we don't have agreements with every library. So you don't necessarily get to borrow from them. Most academic libraries are completely fine with students coming in and using a book while within the library. So if you know that you're probably going to either read the parts of the book or read a chapter or something like that from the book, feel free to go into most academic libraries, get the book off the shelf and actually thumb through it, take pictures with your phone, whatever. You can do that at most libraries. That most academic libraries don't have a problem with that. Also, if on this list, on this page where we're looking at the zip codes, if you click on the library's name, you'll typically be taken to their catalog. Let me go ahead and do this. So I'm taken to their catalog, and I'm given their call number and their location. Hopefully you guys were able to see that. It's just one way to help you understand where to find it in the library. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of go backwards. I'm going to hit my back button, and this is going to take me back to my original search so that it's available for you to use for questions. What is that? Question 2, question 6, and question 3. They're all kind of on that same tab. All right, so now we want to use articles. Now, I'm going to first go back to the library webpage. Sorry about that. All right, I want to, sorry, I'm just looking at my instructions here. Oh,
Steve,
got a question here.
are you going to go to the ACL, ATLA? Lauren asked if there's a way to see if libraries are listed that you will have an agreement.
Okay. It's not on my list, but I can here. All right. So somebody was questioning about that list of other libraries we do have agreements with, and I'm going to write it down in pen so that I come back to it just before the end. So I will bring up the list of libraries, and we can talk about that really quickly. Just let me write that down. Okay, so I want to talk about using limiters to refine your search. Now, we just did that in the book catalog by refining it by which library and even by which format. So that's something that's important. Limiters can be applied before or after the search, depending on your preference and how you want to do that. You will often have instructors who will require that all resources are current. And that definition depends on your subject. Currency is different for different topics, different subjects, different disciplines. If your instructor doesn't give a time frame, typically 10 years it tends to be okay. And I'm not sure, depending on which class within the MASL, but 10 years probably should be the norm. Again, if your instructor doesn't tell you, ask. That will be important. Most instructors will also require that the article is peer-reviewed, or it's academic, scholarly, or a refereed journal. Let me pull up a little PDF. In the middle of your screen now should be a PDF that explains or kind of walks through the peer review process. The idea is that an author writes an article and they submit it to an editor for review. So they take their time to write the article, find a journal that seems appropriate. They send it to the general editor. The general editor then rejects the article, uh, returns it for edits, or sends for review, or they publish it. So they've got several options. Rarely is an academic article published without any edits. Typically, it requires some editing. So a review process is that the general editor gets a copy of your article, makes 2 or 3 copies of it, and sends it on to what are referred to as peers. Those peers tend to be experts in the field. They then reject the article, send it to the editor and say it's not worth publishing, or they say it should be published as is, or it should be published if they edit or add or change these items. And so what you see is that this becomes this back and forth conversation between these groups of people. So if the peers accept it with edits, they send it back to the editor returns it to the author then makes those changes and then resubmits, and the process goes on again and again until either it gets published or the editor says it's never going to get there and then rejects the article. What this does is it then takes an article from being an author's first idea to being edited and challenged and improved. So when we ask for a peer-reviewed article, it's no longer the first opinions. It's honed into something that's much better, a sharper argumentation and that sort of thing. So it's a better article. And so your instructors typically say, we want the best, and therefore they ask for these peer-reviewed articles. All right, so what has this got to do with anything? Well, we're going to now look for some of these peer-reviewed articles. All right, let me get back to the library website. I am at Life Pacific. I'm going to click Menu, click Library. So where are our journals? Well, rather than looking for them in the book catalog, under the tab that says Resources, it's the 4th from the left. Go ahead and click Resources, and this takes you to a page that lists all of our various electronic databases and electronic services that are available. Now, for question 4 on your sheet, it says to search ProQuest. And so I'm going to here scroll down, and in the middle column, it says ProQuest. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right-click that, so open it in a new tab, so that I make sure that I'm in a new tab. Now, you should all be logged in, which means you should be taken directly to the website here into ProQuest. If you have to sign in, sorry about that, you'll have to sign in a second time. So now I'm going to do the same thing that I just did with the book search. I'm going to enter in my key terms, my keywords, and hope to see what I can find. Again, my first goal, find a list, and from that list find one important title and use that to find the subject headings. So again, I'm going to use hospital chaplaincy. Okay, you enter your term on your version of the box. I'm going to go ahead and click search. Now within ProQuest, this is now searching 5 different databases, and I'm given a results list. And in my case, I've got over 2,000 articles dealing with hospital chaplaincy. But again, not all of them are on topic, so I want to make sure that they're relevant. So I want to check their subject headings. So the first process then is to search for an article that seems like it's right on task. Now, so as hospital chaplaincy often deals with what's going on in the hospital, I need to find one that deals specifically with the chaplain's role. And I found one just by scrolling down to number 6. So I'm going to click on the title, just as I did with the books. So I'm here in the results list. I click the title. This takes me to a materials page. Now, for articles, they often have abstracts. They sometimes have the full text. I want to click on the abstract tab. And it's like opening up the details of the book. It then gives me a description of the book, sometimes some of the subject headings and so forth. And I see as I scroll down here under one of these, it says chaplaincy service hospitals, and it gave me a little bit more than that. It actually gave me manpower in addition to that. So I am going to copy part of that, and now I want to go back to my search. So I'm going to go to, instead of basic search, along the top left, it says basic search, advanced search, publications, browse, and database. I want to click on advanced search. It's going to give me a little bit more control. And now I paste my search term again. In this case, instead of hospital chaplaincy, I found the subject heading, and the subject heading is chaplaincy service hospital. Close. Now, instead of searching anywhere, I want to scroll down and I want to change it to subjects. About the fourth one down says all subjects and indexing. So again, now I'm no longer searching titles or authors or descriptions. Now I'm searching specifically the subject heading. I click search, and my results went from over 2,000 to just 37 articles. Okay, so using a subject heading greatly narrows it down, and it narrows it to those that are specific to what I'm looking for. Okay, now just as I could do with the books, if I wanted to modify this search, I could use the subject heading, and then if I wanted to add, again, something like grief, or to add a keyword to narrow it even further, with a list of 37, it'll take you 5 minutes to scroll through and find the articles that are most appropriate. If you've got a list with just one subject heading and you've still got over 100, you might want to add a keyword to just narrow that down so that it's a smaller list to wrestle with. The other thing to do is to change dates and to change to peer-reviewed. So I've got a list of 37, and here on the left-hand side, I'm going to talk about this. Let me click on peer-reviewed, and let's see what happens from my list. I dropped from 37 to 31. And now to make sure that I'm within my 10-year time limit, I'm going to scroll down and change another limit. I'm going to update the dates. Enter a date range. And so I'm going to give a starting date of, 2008. And I'll update that. And now it has eliminated articles that are older. And now my list is down to just 19. Okay. So why don't you guys go ahead and try and do that yourselves. You've got a subject heading. Go ahead and add peer review as one limiter, and then scroll down and add the date as a second limiter. Okay, so that was within ProQuest. We still want to find another set of answers, and so for question 5, we're going to go back to our tab here of the library on the resource tab. So if you go back, I should just be another tab in your browser where it says resources at Life Pacific. If you need to, you go back to lifepacific.edu, click on menu, click on library, and then it's the resource tab. Here in the middle column we found ProQuest, and just above this it says EBSCO. EBSCO is the company that hosts the ATLA religion database with ATLS serials. And if you don't know what ATLA is about, this is for Bible theology and ministry. So for some of your classes that ask for a theological understanding or for ethical understanding, this is a great website, or a great database to use for that. It is found within EBSCO. So I'm going to go ahead and click on EBSCO. I'm going to click EBSCO Host Web because my Spanish is not as good. So I'm just going to click on the EBSCO Host Web. Now, at this point, EBSCO is going to try and search all of its databases. I want to narrow this down just to the ATLA serials, the religion material. So I'm going to click, sorry, did that a little fast. Along the top, there's 4 or 5 words here about new search subjects. Underneath that, just above the search boxes, it says searching, ATLA religion, show all, choose databases. I want to choose databases. When I click that, it's going to give me all the databases within EBSCO. And I just want the ATLA. So I'm going to eliminate business and communication and ebooks, regional business news. Now, if you're doing a leadership paper, as much of your program deals with leadership, you'll want to keep the business and some of these others because they're related to that subject. But right now we're just looking at a ministry issue. So I'm clicking just ATLA. And now again, I enter my key term. Whatever key term you're using, go ahead and use that. I'm going to still use hospital chaplaincy. Okay. And I click search. Again, I want to find one article that deals with hospital chaplaincy. Pick it, look for the descriptions, and find the subject heading. So as I scroll down, I'm looking for, and I find just in my 4th one under subjects, it says Chaplain's Hospital. That was close. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, copy and paste that back in my search box. It's been the same process every time. We start with keywords, we click search. We find one that is most appropriate. We look for the subject headings there, and we use the subject headings to research. Now I'm going to change this up here. I've now entered the subject heading, but I changed the drop-down box to subjects. And so it should limit my search to just articles with that subject. Okay, so now I have articles just dealing with my subject. So my 2 limiters that I typically use are peer-reviewed. So go again here on the left-hand side. One of the first limiters, full-text abstracts, scholarly peer-reviewed journals. I click scholarly peer-reviewed, and I lose a couple hundred. Now I need to change my dates, my limiter. I can highlight that number. Use a 10-year search. I hit enter, and my list dropped roughly from nearly 1,000 to just over 200. 200, that's still a pretty good number to try and search through. So what I'm going to do is, as I said, one of the other things to do is you can add a keyword to narrow your search. So I'm going to come back up to my search box. So it already says Chaplain's Hospital as my subject. I go to the next box down, and I'm going to add grief or bereavement. Okay. Helps if I spell it correctly. Let me try that again. Okay, and it actually, you might notice that sometimes it gives you options. So in my case, I used grief. And it said grief and loss, or grief or loss, or bereavement, or mourning. And I'm actually going to pick on that one because those are all various synonyms. If you've got a list of synonyms or words that are close enough that you can call them synonyms, you might want to put the word or between them. That's going to expand your search a little bit because it's going to search for each of those terms and see if it comes up. So it's a good little hint. So I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And so I went from 200 to 16. So now my articles are about hospital chaplaincies and some aspect of grief or loss or bereavement. So I have enough materials so that I can now answer question number 5. And we are now probably 3/4 of the way through that worksheet. And I'm going to turn around quickly and ask Gary how things are going. If things are going well, why don't you go ahead and give him an OK or a thumbs up, and I'll ask him if I need to go over anything again. So go ahead and send him a thumbs up or an OK right now if things are going all right.
Some of the screens are sprayed.
On the presentation or just their screens?
I'm not sure. I think it's on the user.
Okay. Okay. All right, so Gary's reminding me that I'm going fast. And so I apologize for that. Just understand that, well, one, this is being recorded. It will be available probably Tuesday. It takes a little while for it to render and for me to post it. There is a version of this from last year already posted in the grad lib guide, but the same process is used in each one of these things. Keyword, find a book. That one book, find the subject heading. Use the subject heading to find everything on that subject, and then if necessary, use limiters, whether that be date or peer review, or possibly limit by using other keywords. I also understand that some of you are having issues, some technical issues, and for that I apologize. Last year when we were trying to do this in our July presentation, we forgot to record it, so technical issues happen. All right. Hopefully we're doing okay at this point and you've kind of caught up. Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tabs open. My first tab was originally the search results from the book catalog. That answers 3 of our questions. ProQuest is next to that. That answers a 4th question. And then the ATLA answers a 5th question. So we've gone through a few of these things. All right, I am going to, hopefully we're all caught up. I'm now going to open its own tab. Okay, and now we're going to do something with Google Scholar. Okay, so hopefully you guys are ready for this. We're going to go to scholar.google.com. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that, scholar.google.com. So this should look very similar to a Google search page, except it says Google Scholar. Google Scholar is their attempt to create their own database. In other words, they have searched and scoured journals, and all of the articles that they could find, they've tried putting in. Now, a lot of articles actually come from paid databases. Your tuition pays for these databases in ProQuest and ATLA. So articles from there are not necessarily going to show up in Google Scholar. Some of them might, but not all of them. So Google Scholar is an attempt at a database, and it does a pretty good job. There's a lot of material out there that's freely available, and so they try to search all of that. Before we do a search, though, we want to set it up so that it actually connects to Life Pacific as best as it can. And the reason for that is if you see an article in Google Scholar and it's actually at LPC, you can click on that and have free access to it. So what we're going to do is, now that we're on Google Scholar, again, that was scholar.google.com, in the upper left-hand corner, there are 3 horizontal bars. And we're going to go ahead and click those. And at the bottom of that is the little widget and the word settings. And we're going to click settings. Okay, so that was the 3 bars, then the settings widget. And now here on the left under search results, it says library links. And that's what we're looking for, is the library links. Now, as a student here at LPC, you want to connect with our library. So you're just going to click LPC. And if you search for LPC, in this case, you should get 3 different things. One says Life Pacific College Alumni Library, get from LPC. One is Las Positas College, that's not us. And there's another one that says Life Pacific College ProQuest Full Text. I believe that is an old dead link, and so we're just going to leave that one blank. The only one you want to click and save is get from LPC. Okay, so I've done the search for the library. I'm going to save get from LPC. Now when I find an article that LPC actually has access to, you'll see on the right-hand side there it says get from LPC, and you can have complete access to that. Alrighty, let me look at my notes, see where we're at. We're going to go ahead and do a search. All right. Now, I've been doing an advanced search on each of those pages, so I had multiple bars to search from. Again, this is just a single search bar, so I want to go back to an advanced search. I go back to my 3 horizontal bars, and just above settings, it said advanced search. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and that opens up multiple boxes and other things. The reason for this is down at the bottom, it has the dates. And again, you're always going to want to set those dates to the correct dates for your work. As I said, typically it's 10 years, and so let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to search for hospital chaplaincy again. Here again, you should enter in your terms and see what we can find. All right, so I've done those things. I'm going to go ahead and click the little search bar, and this gives me a results list. 2 things that are absolutely wonderful about this is there's a bunch of things that are good about this, but I'm going to look at this where it says I'm looking at the top article, and underneath that in purple it says cited by. This is actually a metric for how often this article has been used by other people. Okay, so if it's a cited by 0, that means nobody has written or nobody has used this book or article within their bibliography, their reference page. The higher the number, the more influential the article is. Now, for your literature review assignment, make sure you use the most influential. Caution to that, not just picking just the highest numbers, but one caution to that is that a newer article hasn't necessarily had time to be used by other people, to be quoted and used. So as you do this, make sure that you look for the most cited. Those are the most influential, but also look for some of the newest articles. If it's been published in the last 2 or 3 years, it's really hard for it to have a great number of citations. An article with only 2 or 3 years means somebody has to read the article, submit it, it goes through the whole peer review process, and then finally gets published. So typically it's unusual to find something within the last year and a half that has any citations whatsoever. But like I said, look for the highest citations and then look for some of the newest stuff as well. Second feature that I think is great, and this is actually true in all of our electronic devices or electronic services, is there is a citation generation. For Google, it's a little set of quotation marks. Click on that and it gives you the different options. This is MLA, MASL, so you should be using APA. One caution with that, and it's true with every citation device, copy, paste it, but then double check with your citation manual, the APA publication manual. It's computer generated, and so sometimes the authors, editors, and some of those things get mixed up. All right. Let me see here what else I was going to say. All right, so this is from Google Scholar, which was question number 7. So this, to an extent, answers question 7, whatever this list is. You'll notice on this list that some of them say HTML and then in a location. If you can scroll down yours, on mine, the 4th item down, it has not only an HTML and a link outward to another place, but it also says get from LPC, which in this case means that this article is available from Life Pacific. Some of these others says PDF, which means you can click on that and you'd have access to the PDF. But you do have others that have no markings whatsoever, which means it's an article that's available. It exists, but it's not freely available. So a lot of these articles are what we would say is behind a paywall. That is, if I were to click on, in my case, if I were to click on this particular one, um, I would probably be taken to a page that said pay 25, pay $50 to rent or to buy this article. I'm looking at mine really quickly. I actually may be able to get the full text. Well, one of the things I want to tell you is yeah, I don't belong to either one of those, so never mind. Um, so if you hit a paywall because you found an article that was perfect for your paper, rather than paying the $25 to $200, depending on the article, to buy it, go back to the Google page and get the citation for it, and then send that to us because we have the ability to borrow articles from other libraries. So rather than paying for it, if you did your research early enough, we could ask other libraries, can we get a copy of it? And they will send us a PDF. It sends it on to you, and you will have typically access to this article. So if we don't have it, we can probably get it. In fact, that's kind of the next little thing. It's not part of your paper, but I just want to cover this. This is the idea. So paste the citation created by the database or by Google onto something. And then you can either just send that as an email, or you can come back to our library. Let me go ahead and see if I can open this really quick. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm going to copy a citation. And then if I were in our book catalog, okay, in the book catalog, I can paste the citation. In fact, I may want to eliminate some of it so it's not too difficult for it to find. And I can click search. And here's that article I was looking for. So even though it doesn't say, get from LPC or it's available, under availability, you should have a blue bar that says request through interlibrary loan. Once you click that, you enter in your username, and I can't even think what else you probably need to enter. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Let's see here. Date needed, your name, your ID, and your your email address. So this article, if I were to fill out these pink boxes and then click submit, Gary would get a request, and Gary would try to find one of the many universities that have access to this, and we would make the request. One of the things I was talking about with Gary earlier today was that it's about 3 days, 2-3 days for a typical article. Some articles take a little longer. Gary was also telling me he got one within 5 hours. So it's basically sent it as an electronic copy, and we just forward that on, pass that on to the student. And so you could have this article, which might be behind a paywall typically. Okay. All right. Before I go to live questions, let me come back, and there was the question about what's that list of colleges that you have access to? Okay. So I'm going to go here to our library page. Downloading article. Okay. Let me stop for a second before I do this. I'm going to go back to one of the articles in ProQuest or within one of these things. Gary said somebody was asking about how to download an article. So I just picked one of the databases, one of the tabs that I had open, and I can click on the title of the article. And this takes me to a materials page, and I can, in several places it says full text PDF or download PDF. Either of those, in most cases, will give me the chance to download the article. Here I am within the database. Here's the article itself, and in the very top portion, I've got the little download link. I could download the PDF, and really, it's just going to open in the browser. It's going to download in the browser as an attachment to download. Okay. Hopefully I explained that well enough. All right, and the last thing was reciprocal borrowing. So the list of colleges or map of colleges that we have reciprocal borrowing with. Okay, so I came back here to Life Pacific's library webpage. On the left-hand side is a LibGuide. So it's a guide that we've created to help you as students, and it says Graduate Guide to LPC Library. This was originally created for the MASL program and for all of the students, and it's basically how to access the library. So there's a home page which has some materials on it. There's a contacting the library, which has Gary and I's email addresses, our phone numbers, that sort of thing. There is the online library orientation, which 6 months ago when you guys started the program, these are the 5 videos that we recommended you watch. So that's there. MASL policies, so if you want to know how to borrow and that sort of thing, what's your limits, that's all found there, and I'll come back to that in a second. Digital reserves, some instructors put things on reserves, and this kind of walks you how to get to those things. Now, so there's several things going on here on this website. 2 I want to point out. Back on the home page, where it scrolls down a little bit, it says Research Webinar, and there's the research process flow map. There's the peer review chart that I showed earlier, and right now where it says join the Skype meeting, that's what we're doing right now. On Tuesday, that should be converted, and it should say, you know, the webinar, and it should be a link to the recording of this webinar. If you scroll down even further, it says older webinar, and there's a link to January of 2017. Okay, so that's where you're going to find the recording of this. It's right here on the home page of the Graduate Guide to the Library. All right, so I'm going to come all the way back over here to the tab MASL Policies. And I'm going to scroll down here underneath How to Borrow. And there's these 2 things right here. One says ATLA Reciprocal Borrowing, and the other says ACL. We belong to 2 different groups. One is the American Theological Library Association, and the other is Association of Christian Librarians. And we have agreements, and you'll notice that they have instructions and policies listed there. There's an application at the bottom so that you can understand what you need to do. Most of it is fill it out, contact us, we contact the library you want to go to. And up at the top here is the library, it's a map, the ATLA ACL borrowing map. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And apparently I screwed up on that one. Tuesday, let me write that down. Tuesday I need to fix the map. I worked on one of them. Need to fix the ATLA map. All right, so on this map, hopefully you guys clicked on it with me or you're just looking at it. There is 156 pins representing about 105 libraries, I think, thereabouts. And they're scattered throughout the country. So if you live in some of these locations, you'll see that you can scroll in closer. Let me just scroll into Denver, so that if anybody lives in the Denver area, you'll notice that there are 4 pins, and those represent 4 different schools, 4 different libraries. So you could go to Denver Seminary, you could go to Iliff School of Theology, you could go to St. John Vianney Seminary and Colorado Christian College. So if you live in the Denver area, you actually could borrow from them as if you were a student. You do have to contact us. You do have a little application to apply for, but you can go into any of those and borrow from them according to their policies. And again, the map is over the country. You'll notice that there's this huge gaping area on the west where there's not a whole lot of schools here. Hopefully you don't live there. So yeah, that's the ATLA. That's the list of schools that we have a borrowing agreement with. And if you've got a school near you that's not on this list, let us know. We can try to make arrangements. We would be happy to contact other schools and make one-time arrangements or whatever. Alrighty. Um, we are now ready for live Q&A. We should have several tabs open. You should have basically the answers for your entire worksheet based on that. So I am going to now come back to Skype and say, what do we got? Feel free to open up a mic, open up your camera if you'd like, and we can see if I can walk through anybody's issues if we've got some things I need to re-explain. Alrighty. Tim is typing, but if anybody has a question that they'd like answered, I'd be happy to work with something. Or I'll just stand here and look pretty, or whatever, until somebody has a question. If you don't have any questions, the webinar itself is done. We're just looking for questions if people have got them. So feel free to leave if you've got other things to do, or if I've answered all your questions.
Just remind everybody we'll be available.
Gary's saying, remind them that we will be available. Yes, absolutely. Next week we have Monday off for the holiday, and then we will be here Tuesday through Friday. I'm available in the mornings, and that's true for most weeks. I'm available Monday through Friday, typically 8 to noon. Gary is here until, I don't know, midnight or something. No, Gary leaves in the early afternoon, but we're basically here to help you. So feel free to contact us, and not just about this particular assignment, but as you continue on throughout the program, feel free to ask. There are millions of resources out there, and we can help you access those.
If you scroll down, there's a question at the bottom.
Okay, I'm coming down. When you struggle to get your search to find the topic you're looking for, any suggestions of how to best narrow things down? Okay, Tim.
Prayer.
Gary's saying pray. My big thing is if you can put your finger on what it is you're looking for, and so if you've got your idea, this is going to be the hard part, is thinking, what are some of the other synonyms for the same idea? Once you have that list of synonyms, enter them into the search box with an or. Put the or in caps and put that between each of the items. What that does is that's going to greatly expand what you're searching for. And let me give you a demonstration of that. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm just using Google, okay? So I'm in Google, and part of my subject was grief, and I'm going to go ahead and put or in caps next to that, or mourning, or loss, or bereavement, if I can spell bereave. By putting the ors between it, what it does is it searches for each one of those, in my case, each one of those 4 items, and then it puts all of them together in one list. So putting or between items greatly expands what's available to you. So putting or is one of the great ideas within that. And so in my case, I just did that, and I got 1.2 billion hits. That's in Google. You'd get a far less within one of the databases and that sort of thing, a controlled area. But yeah, using or helps, and browsing through things that are close. You might start to find some subject headings that become really close, and start searching for those subject headings and trying to narrow it down that way. I hope that made sense. Yeah, as Gary wrote that, that's very true. You will find that your subject may change, which is awesome. As you work towards your capstone project, it might be a tweak, it might be a narrowing down, and that's going to be a big issue as you start working towards your capstone. Is as you start to narrow it down to a very specific um, your situation within your context, you find fewer and fewer resources. And so this is one of those places where you can ask us as to uh, how do I find a resource? There's nothing out there. This is where we start searching theses and dissertations, or we start finding something parallel to your issue. Um, I'm trying to think. One of them last year was it was like women in ministry, Pentecostal churches, and I think they were looking for like in South Africa or something like that. And it was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe if we searched for women in ministry, Pentecostal background, and we searched some of the other countries, and that got similar type resources and similar things that would be similar problems and issues to work with. So it's a matter in some cases of narrowing, but also then expanding beyond that. Any other questions? Okay, so in Google Scholar, replying to Paul's text, it says in Google settings, library links, only use the LPC alumni one. Yes, yes, it's get from LPC. Put that in quotes. Get from LPC. That's the only one that's the accurate current link. Okay. And it says it's help for those of us living abroad, more electronic searches. Uh, okay, so as far as materials from LPC, if you live in the US and it's a book that we actually own, we can ship back and forth. Otherwise, really, it's all electronic resources or trying to borrow from another library. Um, Most of what you're going to be looking for are going to be journal articles and then the theses and dissertations. And those are going to be your big things to search with. So Tim, in yours, we wouldn't be able to serve you with books anyways. You do have electronic books through LPC. We do have the articles, dissertations, and theses. Um, yeah, unfortunately, you don't have the ATLA libraries for reciprocal borrowing and that sort of thing. Yeah, unfortunately. Let's see, Lauren. There was some library resource mentioned that had an option where you could type in a topic and it would.
It was a Credo's.
Okay. Yeah, Credo reference. Um, okay. Yeah, when you go to the library website, click on resources, Lauren, and then on the right-hand side, it'll say Credo Digital Reference. And when you click on that, that will open up the different, basically it's a collection of 800 dictionaries, encyclopedias. And within that is kind of a web of thought idea, and that tends to give links. And was it Paul who was asking earlier? No, who was it who was asking for other topics? Oh, it was Tim. So Tim, yeah, that's also one of those things where it visually creates a map of related topics. So that's one aspect. If you're really interested and you get stuck with topics, the Library of Congress has a website, and if you browse for subjects, it will actually help you find your subject. If you type in your keyword, it will then give you all of the places where it has that same keyword within the subjects. So you might end up scrolling. I've done this. You end up scrolling through 500 words to find your one subject that's the right one. Talk to me before you get to that point, and I'll see if I can find those things for you. But if you're wanting to know how to do that part of the search, let me take you to a website here. So within our library website, so here we're at the library website, go back home, and under LibGuides, there's one that says click to see all. Oh, I can do this up here. Online search techniques. This is an interesting little LibGuide. It talks about how did the search engine work, basic search techniques. advanced search techniques, and if you hold on to that, underneath it, it says how to find subject headings. And those walk you through how to find the subject headings. In fact, this LibGuide, the online search techniques, basically goes through most of what I demonstrated today. So it talks about how to find, entering keywords to find a subject heading, using subject headings, and how to use limiters. But this how to find subject headings is a good thing if you're getting really lost. Okay. Gary is talking with Paul about the or and. It's what's known as Boolean operators. It's actually kind of a math or logic kind of issue, but they're used in search engines. It seems, in some sense, it seems counterintuitive, but when we use the word and in all caps in a search, it actually narrows it down, because now you're searching for one subject and another subject, and they both have to be on the same page. So it narrows it down, whereas or searches for this topic or this topic or this topic or this topic, and so the list then is really long. It is fascinating, and it's actually job security for Gary and I. So we try not to tell people our secrets about Boolean operators. Just kidding. Are there any other questions? Thank you. Woohoo, yeah. You're absolutely welcome. And again, trial and error is great. Hopefully what we've given you is enough to at least get you started with this worksheet. Really, it answers everything in your worksheet, so that should get you through the end of that and get you started on the capstone. As you go on in your program, feel free to ask questions as necessary. So yes, you're absolutely welcome in this. And no, Gary, I'm not going to repeat that out loud. You're welcome, Tim.
All right.
All right, it looks like we're not really dealing with any more questions. So thank you very much for your time. I hope it was a help. And like I said, I'll post it on Tuesday, and hopefully I'll fix that map as well. So have a great rest of your Saturday, and we will hopefully be in contact the next year or so. All right, have a good day. Bye.